Welcome to Meet the Candidate. My guest for this segment is Ron HIggins. He is running for Superintendent of Public Instruction. Welcome, Ron.
Well, thank you, Sue Lani. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, well, we finally got connected. We're all navigating the world of virtual connections these days.
Yes.
But this is a chance for you to let people know who you are as a person, not just as a candidate. Tell us a little bit about where you grew up and went to school.
Well, I was born in St. Louis, Missouri. We moved to New Jersey and went to most of my high school there. Then I moved to California. I finished high school in California, just south of San Francisco. Then I went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. I majored in chemistry. When I graduated from Cal Poly, I went in the Marine Corps. I was a helicopter pilot. I flew helicopters in Vietnam. And after my service in Vietnam, I was the training officer of Marine Corps Air Station helicopters in Tustin, California. And then I got out of the Marine Corps. I went to work at the Naval Reactors Facility, and I worked in the engineering field for a number of firms. The Naval Reactors Facility in Idaho, also at N-Reactor in Washington State at Hanford. Then I worked for the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. I came back, worked at Energy Northwest. Then I worked for the Department of Energy. That's where I completed my career in 2009. Along the way, I got married to my wife, Deborah. She's a registered nurse. And we had two children, a son, Nate, and a daughter, Abigail. My son unfortunately got hurt in 2004, right after he graduated from high school and Running Start. He had his AA degree as well. Unfortunately, he broke his back, and he's been in a wheelchair ever since, but that didn't stop him. He graduated from Gonzaga University. I think you know where that's located.
Oh, yes.
He loved Gonzaga, by the way. He graduated from Gonzaga University. Then he went on and got his master's in business administration from the University of Southern California. He's also been very active, even though he broke his back. He swam across Lake Pend Oreille. I swam with him. He can't use his legs, but he swam a half hour faster than I did. So,
wow.
So there you go. Well, he's competed for the United States Paralympics in swimming, and he's also training now to compete in track and field, and also in Nordic skiing and cross-country skiing. He's doing that. Now, my daughter went to Walla Walla University. She then went on to Washington State University, got her PhD in math education. She's currently a professor down in California. She's on the tenure track at Sacramento State University. She's a professor of mathematics. Well, when I retired from the Department of Energy, I'd been very active with my children in high school, in sports especially, and my kids said, you have a real natural gift there. Why don't you go and become a teacher? And they had this honored route to teacher certification, and I entered that. It's generally for mid-career, but I was fairly youthful fellow, even though I was in my 60s, and I went into that, and I got my teaching certificate in mathematics when I was 61, and rather than taking a contract, I became a substitute teacher. I've substitute taught in 7 different districts in Washington State, every school in the Pasco School District. I've also been a school bus driver, did that for a year, And when my son went to the University of Southern California, he was working full-time and going to school full-time, and he's in a wheelchair. Now, how do you do that? Well, you need help. And my wife went down for a while, and I went down. It was some of the most enjoyable time of my life because I'd help him get to work. He left for work about 5:30 in the morning. He worked for Toyota Financial, and I'd wait for a call from either charter schools or the public school because I substitute taught in the inner city of Los Angeles for 6 months. And I had a wonderful time. I could tell you stories, some of them not very comforting, but I saw what charter schools were like, what public schools were like, the inner city, and unfortunately I feel sorry for the kids who go to the public schools because it's pure chaos down there. But I had a good time. I met a lot of good people down there, and I came back in 2015 after my son graduated, and I've been substitute teaching ever since. I've run for public office before, for the Superintendent of Public Instruction, because, as Abraham Lincoln said, the philosophy of the classroom in one generation will be the philosophy of the government in the next. Some things I saw were very disturbing, and I thought we need to get back to the foundational principles that made our country prosperous and free. And if we lose those principles, we will lose our prosperity, we will lose our liberty. And it's up to the kids, and it's up to us to guide them in the right way. Unfortunately, we should point them to the stars and not to the gutter. And that's one of the reasons I'm running.
Well, you have a very interesting background in the classroom that I don't think I've heard from other candidates. Being able to compare schools here and in California, and both public and private. That's clearly shaped your attitude towards the Superintendent of Public Instruction office. How do you see the role of the Superintendent of Public Instruction in education in the state of Washington?
Well, they set the policy. We set the standards. What should they be learning? Well, we've seen a lot of these demonstrations and such, and it seems like many of the young people can't think for themselves. And that's not a surprise to me because often they're all clustered together in these study groups, some type of consensus thinking. That's not going to maintain our liberty. Consensus thinkers. We need independent thinkers. Thinkers who know what the foundational principles are and can think for themselves and assess and come to their own conclusions and cannot be manipulated. Unfortunately, I see a lot of people are being manipulated. It's not surprising to me that they are so vulnerable to that. By the way, wouldn't it be neat if we had a law that required instruction in morality and manners and patriotism? You know something? We do. In fact, I could read that. I've got it right here. It's Regulatory Code of Washington, 28A.230.020, and that is Common School Curriculum, not Common Core, Common School Curriculum, and 405.030, and that's the title is Must Teach Morality and Patriotism in Our Schools. And you can look that up. I could read from that. I don't have that memorized here, but I do happen to have it in front of me. And this is what it says. Stress the importance of the cultivation of manners, the fundamental principles of honesty, honor, industry, and economy. That's common schools, and must teach patriotism or morality and patriotism. Impress on the minds of their pupils. Every teacher is supposed to do this. The principles of morality. Truth, justice, temperance, humanity, and patriotism, to teach them to avoid idleness, profanity, and falsehood, to instruct them in the principles of free government, and to train them up to the true comprehension of the rights, duty, and dignity of American citizenship. We're supposed to do that right now. Unfortunately, I don't think we're living up to that. And that's a shame. I'll give you some examples. I ask kids after we say the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll ask them, what does pledge mean? I get these blank stares. What does allegiance mean? I get these blank stares. What is a republic? Another blank stare. They should know this. How long would it take to teach that? But to think I'm going down on the teachers, this is kind of a broad brush, because I went to one middle school, and I handed out a plaque, and I handed out constitutions to the children, and I asked the kids, what are the 5 freedoms in the First Amendment? Now, probably 1 out of 1,000 U.S. adults know them. These kids knew them because their teacher taught them. So the kids can learn, the teachers can teach. We have to set high standards. I said we should aim for the stars and not the gutter. That's one thing I'm totally opposed to, this comprehensive sex education. Let's call it what it is. Sexual promiscuity in every grade for every kid in every subject. Well, how does that align with much teach morality and patriotism? I don't think it aligns at all. So I will take, upon election, I will take an oath to the Constitution of the United States. And that includes all the other laws of the United States. There are certain organic laws of the United States. There are 4 of them. The first is the Declaration of Independence. The second is the Articles of Confederation. The third is the Northwest Ordinance. And the fourth is the U.S. Constitution. When you take an oath to the Constitution, you take it to all those. And the Constitution really implements the principles of the Declaration of Independence, which is the laws of nature and nature's God. That's what entitles us to be a free and independent country equal to every other country. And also the where do our rights come from? Endowed by their Creator for certain inalienable rights. And when these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And what's the purpose of government? Governments are established to protect these rights, and that they get their rights from power from the consent of the governed. And what is a republic? You have to go to the Mayflower Compact, and it talks. That was kind of the pattern for our Constitution and Declaration of Independence that was signed in 1620 by the Pilgrims off the coast of what is now Massachusetts before they went into formed their colony there, and they wrote a number of laws, and they all agreed to obey the law. That's what a republic is. It's a nation of laws. And those in the higher positions have even more responsibility to set a good example for everyone by obeying the law themselves. I'd like to see that conveyed to our kids, and our kids are very receptive. I was in as I say, the inner city, and those kids are every bit as good as anybody else. I could tell you that. In fact, in those charter schools, they had impeccably high academic standards, behavior standards, and grooming standards. And I was very impressed. And yeah, I got paid a little bit less when I worked there, but boy, it's a joy to have students who really want to learn. And it's the other place, unfortunately, was chaos because they didn't enforce any structure, and that's a shame.
I've not looked up those RCWs. I've made a note of them myself just to check. I've often thought we need to reintroduce Aesop's fables into the curriculum.
Well, yeah, it's 28A 230.020 and 28A 405.030, and
Okay.
it's pretty.
Got
I
that.
was very impressed when I read that. In fact, when I substitute teach, I will actually read this. I say, I want the record to so state that I am stressing the importance of the cultivation of manners, the fundamental, and I'll say that, and I'll say that to the kids, and then I'll say that I want to impress upon your minds the principles of morality. And I'll read that right up. So if anybody accuses me of not living up to this, you know they're wrong, because I just did. I just told you.
Okay. That would be a really interesting class to be in.
Well, we have wonderful time. I have a wonderful time. Mathematics, that's what that's my certificate. And I will preferentially take that assignment because it's very tough for them to find substitute teachers who know mathematics. However, I've taken everything, including bilingual, both Spanish and Russian. First bilingual class I had was at kindergarten. None of the kids spoke English. The only Spanish I knew was adios. I've since learned quite a bit more, but a smile needs no translation. And if they can sense it. You care about them. And, that's the most important thing. You care about your kids. Like, I can give you anecdote about anecdote how important the teacher is in the formation of the society in the future. And it's very important that we have good standards and our teachers live up to them. I think that they can do it. They need our encouragement to do so.
Well, we've come to the end of our time, and here's your 30 to 60 second slot to tell everyone why should they vote for Ron HIggins for Superintendent of Public Instruction.
Okay, I'm a conservative candidate for Washington State Superintendent of Public Instruction. I'm a certificated math teacher in both Washington State and California. I've got a master's degree from the University of Washington in chemical engineering. I've also got some other master's degree at the University of West Florida and a bachelor's from Cal Poly. I've taught for 10 years in 7 Washington State school districts and the inner city of Los Angeles, all grades, kindergarten through 12th, all subjects, including bilingual and special ed. Retired engineer, served in the Marine Corps as a helicopter pilot during the Vietnam War, retired from the Marine Corps Reserve as lieutenant colonel, pro-life, pro-family, pro-Second Amendment, pro-property rights, and pro-free enterprise. I vigorously oppose this comprehensive sex education and any curriculum that promises or glamorizes unhealthy behavior or the sexualization of children. I strongly support parental rights to homeschool their children and control their children's health care.
All right. Thank you for joining me today, Ron, and enjoy your campaign.
Well, I hope I was worth waiting for, because you guys were worth. I'm glad.
We finally got the technical stuff. Everybody understands how that works this season.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Ron.
Take care.
90 million Christians are eligible to vote.
40 million didn't.
That's 45% of eligible Christians not voting.
We can change that.
We Believe We Vote was designed to arm people of faith with information on candidates
And how they line up with biblical and constitutional principles.
It's simply WeBelieveWeVote.com.
We're on a mission to rev up the 2020 election.
Tell your friends, your neighbors, and especially your pastors to rev up.
Be an educated voter.
Arm yourself with truth based on the Word of God.
2020, rev up.
Register, educate, vote.
Rev up.
Rev up.
Rev up 2020.